I got sent a couple of videos pertaining to some kind of Australian news spotlight about detransitioning that I wanted to take a look at. 7 News Spotlight.
I was 15 when I had my breast surgically removed.
It's the most controversial story this year.
Children are being told they should change from boy to girl or girl to boy from as young as 12 years old.
Thousands of kids are doing it and regretting it.
I've gone through a medical catastrophe.
Oh, this seems good right off the bat.
Parents are being kept in the dark.
No children should be transitioning without the parents' knowledge and consent.
I believe our children are being lied to.
These are life-changing decisions being made before our kids have any idea of the consequences.
Is a generation being brainwashed?
It's a medical scandal.
When we reached out...
Is 7 News like a Murdoch outlet? Is this one of the Yes, it is. It is. It's one of the Murdoch ones. Okay, that makes sense, yeah. 7news.com.au. Let's see. 7 News Australia, because apparently it brings up something local as well. Wikipedia. The highest rated news service in Australia. My goodness. Well, it's done quite well. Is there anything here that's not technical? Technical news? Something specific? Political bias? Controversy? No? No. Bored. Well, I suppose we'll judge them based on the contents of this. Gosh, that's a low bar. Right, center, mixed reporting. Right, yeah. Not Murdoch. The 7 News, the 7 Network is owned by 7 West Media Limited, a media group controlled by billionaire Kerry Stokes. Not Murdoch, I guess. Ah, well, you know. Some billionaire or another. Wealthy guy, does philanthropy. Well, let's see. Maybe they have good points to make.
To the bosses who run these clinics, all we got was silence.
Urged on by social media. But it's confused kids that are paying the price.
Wait, what? I am 23. Is that confused kids?
Kids that are paying the price.
I was just looking for a sense of belonging.
7 News Spotlight on 7 and 7 Plus.
Nice. Good, good. Okay. So, quite a lot of dislikes to the like ratio. We've talked about this specific stuff many times before. I want to see if they've got a specific angle here. Detransitioning, Jillian Spencer extended interview, 7 News Spotlight. Whoa!
In simple terms, why were you stood down from your clinical duties at the hospital?
The hospital took the opportunity to remove me from clinical duties on the grounds of being a danger to trans and gender diverse children. Because I've got a history of expressing concerns about the gender clinic in the hospital and the model they're using called the affirmation model.
This affirmation model.
We've talked about that before. Now, I have already Googled Dr. Jillian Spencer, and it seems this person is known almost entirely for this specifically. LGB Alliance Australia, the Daily Mail, binary.org.au. So it's all TERF and AntiTrans sites. Gender Clinic News, WNG.org. What does that stand for? Sound journalism grounded in facts and biblical truth. Let me see if I can find something that... Family First Party. Can I find any reporting on this woman that is not explicitly from conservative partisan sources? I'm actually having a very tough time doing that. I'm down to the end of the first page of search results. 3 women in Australia cancelled for gender critical views. Canada Free Press. Dr. Jillian Spencer removed from clinical duties, but that was written 7 hours ago. Okay, I actually cannot find any non-biased reporting. I have no clue. No clue.
Can I paraphrase that? Tell me if it's wrong. So if a child comes in and presents with gender dysphoria...
So you agree with her not being allowed to work with trans kids? Yeah. If she denies the affirmation model, which is currently the accepted medical practice for the best way to deal with transgender people, like, would you have a doctor who was like, actually, I don't believe in like standard care. I'm going to do my own thing. Like, of course not. Obviously, no job would do that.
Yeah. Regardless of the mental state of that child, the hospital and the gender clinic just goes along with what the child wants.
No. The affirmation model means that you don't try to deconvert them. You don't argue with them about their gender identity. You talk with them about what they say their gender identity is. You don't just do whatever they say. A trans kid doesn't walk into a clinic and ask for an ice cream and just get, like, that's not how that works. If you think that a kid is only saying that they're trans because they're depressed or anxious or having a schizophrenic episode, first of all, not common or likely, but possible, I suppose. If you think that's the case, it is not effective to challenge that by saying, actually, I don't think you are trans. What you do is you go, okay, so, all right, so you're trans. So why don't you talk to me a little bit about these feelings you're having? And then you work through that, and then you arrive at a better answer. The people who have an issue with the affirmation model just want, like, they effectively just want gender clinics to be a deconversion, sorry, like a conversion center being done by doctors, basically. It is accepted as the standard model for a reason.
Yes.
So the hospital just expected you, directed you in fact.
Directed me.
If a child was presenting with gender dysphoria, you were, no questions asked really, send them straight to the gender clinic.
Yes.
Yes, because the gender clinic is the clinic that deals with gender dysphoria. Yeah, yes, obviously. Like, if a person is saying that they're having, like, a bunch of, like, I don't know, foot pain, you would send them to the department for that too? I don't understand.
Yes.
Forgive me if this is a stupid question, but
it will be.
How do you know if you were sending the right kids on what is an irreversible journey?
The journey to the gender clinic is not irreversible. It's a different room in the building. You can go back if you want. The elevators go both ways. You can go there, and then you can go somewhere else after. It's fine. It's all right.
No one can know, and that's really important for parents to know, because when a child with gender
the one-way trip to the gender factory, exactly. Sentenced to gender.
dysphoria sits in front of a child psychiatrist or any mental health clinician, they have no way of knowing whether these children are going to persist in their gender dysphoria. And what's been hidden...
That's for the gender clinic to determine. That's the point of the gender clinic. The gender clinic is the clinic where they deal with gender issues. That's the point of the clinic. That's why you would go there, to help understand this stuff. That's the point.
Are the thousands of parents across Australia who are in anguish because they're very concerned about their child receiving care according to this affirmation model, and they're in a very difficult...
The affirmation model is not a prescriptive guideline on medical care, such as hormones or surgery. The affirmation model is a description of how, on a psychological level, you engage with people who claim to have gender dysphoria. The affirmation model doesn't mean that you, like, just give hormones or whatever. You have practices that vary clinic by clinic for that. It's just a matter of how you treat how they talk about their issues.
Position, and they often can't speak out because their highest priority is to remain close to their child and to try to protect their child.
What?
But if they keep going...
Wait, what? What, the parent can't speak out on their fear of a thing because they want to protect their... Wait, what? How does that make any sense? There's no law that forces the parent to do anything. What fear are we trying to play on here? What is happening? Oh yeah, the state, like, persecuting people for not bringing their kid to the gender clinic? What are we talking about?
They go to the gender clinics and then they start to have body parts cut off. They're never going to recover.
I think we're missing a couple of steps on that one. Again, I like body parts cut off because, like, the stupid fear-mongering language is absolutely essential for this brand of, like, parental anxiety transphobia, where, like, you could describe anything like that, you know? Like, oh, you're getting an appendectomy? Ah, they're removing organs, like, you know. Oh, which body parts? Yeah, they sent me to the gender clinic. They cut my arms off, you know? They didn't specify what parts.
It's an absolute disaster, and it's so sad because child psychiatrists and other mental health clinicians are keeping quiet about their concerns. So it is...
Classic. Actually, all of these doctors who think I'm a crank secretly think that I'm in the right and they're too scared to speak up. The go-to copium excuse for every single crank who runs out and disagrees with the scientific consensus with no evidence to... Yeah. Every time.
Creating this false impression that we all agree with the affirmation model.
You've been labelled transphobic.
Probably fair. Wait, Does Jillian Spencer have a Twitter? I'm guessing that she's going to be like banking on. Yep, of course she does. That she's going to be banking on social media attention. Oh wait, that might not actually be the Jillian Spencer. Oh, maybe she doesn't, or maybe it's under like a different name. I can't find it. A surprising amount of restraint.
How do you relate to that?
I see this as a really serious child protection issue. And as a 45-year-old woman and as a mother and as a child psychiatrist, I could not hold my head up if I didn't speak.
Well, former child psychiatrist, because you were let go.
About this. It's too important. And what we're talking about is the well-being of children and their health. We want kids to grow up and be happy. We all want that. We don't want them to have regrets and serious health problems.
Why do you think this?
Again, like the classic like appeal to anxious conservative parents line here, where she's doing this like fake crying bit. You know, as a mother, I'm just terrified for the children. Does anyone remember that old like War on Terror era political cartoon where it was like, how do you want this wrapped, sir? And there's a box called censorship, and then there are two wrappings, and one of them is like protect the children, and the other is fighting terrorism or something.
This has become such a significant social issue.
I think there's lots of social factors contributing. There's a very vocal social movement. But what this issue has revealed is a crisis in the published medical research. And so journals usually use a peer review process to determine if a study is accurate before publication, but that peer review process is failing. And so
yeah, here we go. Yeah, this. How'd you like this wrapped? Control of internet speech, anti-terrorism, protect kids. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, I remember this. Still true to this day. And not just control of internet speech.
We're seeing very poor quality studies being published, and the conclusions drawn by their activist researchers are...
We're at like 20 studies now that are all saying exactly the same thing when it comes to like trans people generally don't detransition. The majority of detransitioners do so for reasons other than regret of their transitioning. Like, but they keep saying like, oh, well, actually these 20 studies aren't high quality enough. This is like a big Jesse Singal bit as well, where they have no issues whatsoever with making a ton of completely unsubstantiated claims, but then when it comes to like following the medical consensus, nothing will convince them, and all of our studies are insubstantial.
Often the exact opposite of what the study has found.
Okay, the best example of this is people who say that existing studies on desistance are unreliable because they're low quality, but then they'll turn around and use the term rapid onset gender dysphoria, a made-up term that had absolutely no backing, you know?
What parents really need to know is that it's a very dangerous time for children and families, and they need to be very cautious about who they let engage with their child. So what I would recommend is
who they let engage with their child. In other words, keep queer people away from your children. It's always eugenicist rhetoric. Remember, the point here isn't to protect children. None of them give a shit about children. They don't care what happens to children. They don't care if they get murdered or hurt or whatever. They're monsters. They're demons. They don't care. But the fear here is meant to be like, you need to protect your children from the grooming influence of these degenerates. You need to be careful about who you let around your child. Yeah, and these camera angles are so dramatic, dude. Holy shit. I don't think we've seen a single shot where I could see her forehead. Just eyes to mouth the whole time.
Is that they see the health professional first without the child to find out what approach they can...
That isn't eugenicist rhetoric, it's transphobia. No, I disagree. I think if you are making the claim that queer people are natural groomers whose presence around children will influence them into being socially degenerate, the only logical outcome of that belief is genocide. You cannot possibly believe that an entire like social minority is just an innate grooming influence to children without believing in political positions that just lead to the abolition of that group. It's literally the degeneracy argument.